microphone, so I know it's a little louder than usual, but let's see if we can do this. There we go. Hey, Danny, can you help me? Check. We're gonna go ahead and stay away from the speaker. Like, please.
Hello.
Yes, ma'am.
What petition or form did you bring with you today so that those of us who agree with you can sign it and you can begin to accumulate a pile of signatures?
Well, thank you. Okay, so the question was about acquiring a petition. Today. Here's the thing. As an elected official, I think that when you're on the dais or when you're part of city government to be passing around a petition and getting kind of changing hats into more of an activist position, I don't necessarily think that that should come from me. Okay? People are hearing the voices. My colleagues are not deaf. I promise you they're not deaf. They hear the opposition to this plan. They hear it. Okay? Emails work. All right? Phone calls work. You know, they always say, call your congressman if you oppose this. Petitions, all the petitions do, it just gives elected officials access to your email address so they can put you on their newsletter. So, and what ends up happening is the petition, it's all the people saying the same thing. If you want, send an email to my colleagues. Show up to a commission meeting if you can. Call their offices and leave a message and let them know what your position is. It doesn't have to be exactly the same as mine. Your reasoning can be different. But at the end of the day, if you want to be heard, that's how you're heard. Petitions work. People will sit there and they'll run and see if you're a voter, and that's great. But at the end of the day, I'm not more now. If they go forward on the interim agreement, I'm sure that someone is going to move forward with a referendum, with a ballot measure that will require public vote in the future on an issue like this. And I don't think it'll be a straw ballot. I know that the language is put together. I know that the business owners on Washington Avenue, I know that they put their own petition together, and they're going to be submitting it next week as well. So it works, but as an elected, I have the advantage of exactly this. I do have my soapbox. I do have the ability to have my voice heard on a different level, and I'm not just speaking for myself. I know I'm speaking for a lot, if not most of the people in this room, and for what it's worth, I know I've heard you. I've heard you. I'm speaking for myself, but I'm also speaking for you. So it's a great question, and that's something that may progress over January, February. I don't want to be the one, especially, listen, 2017 is an election year. This is, you know, I don't want this to get lost in the sauce, gummed up as some political issue when it's not. I'm speaking here as not as a candidate, but as a commissioner. And the moment that you start rallying people and getting petitions together, you open yourself up to accusations that are not valid. So I'd rather, I don't say keep it clean, but I'd rather keep it clear and focus on the message.
Michael, think back to law school. If you were assigned to advocate for the light rail, so that we could come up with some very good responses, how would you advocate for light rail?
Okay, so first of all, Lori just asked me to think back to law school, which I really don't want to do. But in law school, they make you take the position that you don't want. So she just asked me to speak on behalf of the folks that are in favor of the light rail. What are you doing? All right. So, and she wants me to do it as an exercise. So people have a response to their position. And the position is simply, we have to do something. This works in other places. For every place that you name where this works, just so you know, I can find you 10 places with phone numbers to call where it doesn't work. So when it was brought to me, you know, they'll come in and they'll have these. I was at the Flamingo Park Neighborhood Association yesterday. They have these flyers, and they've got this PowerPoint presentation, where they've got these animated renderings of what it's going to look like and how it's going to account for the elimination of lanes or parking or how wonderful it's going to be. But their argument's going to be, the region is growing exponentially, we have to do something, this is the thing. And mind you, there's a huge, huge company that's behind this, and I'm not in the business of getting adversarial with billion-dollar companies most of the time, but I'm not trying to pick a fight with that. What I'm suggesting is that the argument for it is empty. And it's taken me a while to peel back the layers of onion to realize that at the end of it all, the end product will make things worse. And the building of it will cripple us in the meantime to where the end product, even if it had a potential of working, we won't have anything left afterwards. So I keep asking the same question. And they're going to show you, they'll show you ridership numbers. I don't even know where these come from. These ridership numbers blow me away. Because if the county doesn't move forward on their piece, the idea that we're going to have this like Sarah Palin train to nowhere, it scares the you-know-what out of me. And I don't know who's going to ride it. I live 3 blocks from where it's supposed to start at 5th and Alton. And candidly, if there's going to be some sort of multimodal at 5th and Alton, I don't know if there's anybody here that lives in the Icon or in the Murano Grande or the Bentley Bay or has any kids at South Point Elementary, but I'm sure they're not here because they're at home sharpening their pitchforks. Because they're never going to let it happen. It's not going to happen. I avoided your question, by the way.
Heidi Calvin, and I'm one of those with you, it's not Phil. I want to commend you, first of all, on your involvement. I was one of those people who had that conversation with that old Michael. I remember it well. Also, seriously, on the issue of a life of its own, which it has taken on, I would remind all of us of the convention center and the big argument we've had there for years, and we were told so many things that it just wouldn't happen without. One of the things was it can't happen without an 800-room hotel. Well, that got voted down, and how much money are we spending so far, Michael, on this convention center?
On the convention center renovation?
Yeah, that convention center that can't succeed without the 800-room hotel, which we've got ahead with anyway.
About $500 million.
Yeah. So that's what's going to happen with this thing unless we all get up there and say no. Thank you, Michael.
Thank you, Heidi.
Yeah. If we take a look at the map of the United States of America, we have to realize that Miami Beach is hardly noticeable. It's a very, very small piece of land that cannot be abused. So we have to leave things alone sometimes. Just look what happened in Sunny Island, in 163rd Street, that has become a parking lot. So when we do development, sometimes works against us, and I suppose in favor of the building. We have to leave things alone. This is a very small piece of land. We don't need more buildings. We need to improve it. We need to keep it clean. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Alex.
Yes, I have a couple questions, and
You have to be nice. I'm with my wife now.
the first question, I think the important thing is the connectivity with Miami proper. Knowing you can get across the bridge in a certain amount of time, I think is very important. And I do address that somewhat, and I would wonder on your views on that, a solution for that problem. Number two, we're only, with this new convention center, you told about the traffic problems during Art Plaza. We're only going to have more and more traffic problems, it seems to me, because of the increased conventions, which will be coming in. The other thing I would like to say is, you mentioned the tourists giving up renting cars. And I think that's a wonderful thing, and anything we can do, I think, to make getting around Miami Beach easier. I'm not coming down pro or anti-rail, but I think we have to make it easier for tourists to not even think of renting a car when they come. Thank you.
So I want to remind everybody, City Bike has been a great success. Okay, I just started biking again. All right, we are a land mass of about 7 square miles of actual land, and for areas of Mid-Beach and South Beach and North Beach, City Bike has been an amazing success. I believe in biking. I believe in pedestrian safety, making the city more walkable. As recently as yesterday, and Josh Levy was there, the 41st Street Business Association is going to come back out. And one of the concerns about 41st Street is that the sidewalks are about that wide. All right, and one of the problems that we have in the city, and I'm going to give everybody a quick jurisdictional lesson. I'm going to rattle off the streets that I have no control over. Okay? First of all, every causeway is controlled by the state or the county. Dade Boulevard is controlled by the county, as well as 23rd Street. Pine Tree and Lemurs are controlled by the county. Alton Road and Collins Avenue, north of 5th Street, are controlled by the state. 41st Street is controlled by the state. Okay? That is 71st Street, Normandy Drive, controlled by the state. Indian Creek and Harding Avenue, controlled by the state. That's FDOT, or that is County DOT. Okay? Those are not our roads. The roads that we can control, we are doing everything that we can to make them more walkable and to make them more bikeable. Perfect example is West Avenue. West Avenue, when we're done fixing West Avenue, we're doing a huge infrastructure and CIP project in West Avenue. The final product in West Avenue is going to have the first protected bike lanes in the entire county. For those of you that don't know what a protected bike lane is, it's when the bikes are no longer riding next to moving traffic, but they're riding next to the sidewalk on the safe side of parking. They do it in Europe, they do it in other parts of the country, and for some reason this county is like 20 years behind where it needs to be when it comes to safe biking. I recently had a meeting with the new secretary for Dade and Broward County for FDOT. And one of the conversations that we had was prioritizing the idea of creating a bicycle park that actually runs along Julia Tunnel, all the way to the design district in Wynwood, to where it would be a protected bicycle park, completely redone. And the numbers are not outrageous. For all the money that we set aside for this rail, maybe we can contribute to something like that. These are the things that we need to talk about, because we can talk about trolleys and everything else, but we also talk about the fact that we are a beach town. City Bike has been successful. Walking is important. Trolleys are free. People ride these things. Okay? So there are solutions, not only current solutions, but solutions in the works, and we just need to make them more attractive for folks. So the points you made are great, though.
40
yes, Sam.
40 years I've lived here. This is the most professional opposition to an action that's been taken by the Miami Beach City Commission. It has been professional, it's not been acrimonious, and it's fair. Now, my question is this. Is Dade County part of this procedure? Because if it is, Mayor Jimenez has appointed a very, very brilliant director of transportation. I would like to hear from her how she feels this would affect Dade County, Miami, and Miami Beach. I think without question, the community is with you. We elect commissioners to make decisions that they think are the best for the city. And opposed to what you say, if the commission takes a different position, then they have to answer to the public. So it's a question of having the guts that you have, fighting the administration if that's the way it has to be. But this has been done in such a nice, calm manner that is a credit to the city of Miami Beach. Thank you.
Thank you, Stanley.
Hi. My comment is that on 41st Street and in other parts of Miami Beach, I think that the lights should be synchronized more effectively so there isn't such a build-up on 41st Street, especially during rush hour times. Because right now they're very, very slow and not synchronized. So you can be stuck on 41st Union Creek for 8 minutes until you can go west. And then it leads to this whole back all the way down Olive because people are trying to get across that area. So I think a lot of it is traffic, control, and it's not controlled by the state, it's controlled by the police department. So the police departments are the ones who were able to synchronize the lights to make it more of a traffic flow. And if you could work with them more effectively to do that around the area, there wouldn't be so much traffic build up, especially during the rush hour.
Great point. So, if you couldn't hear, the point that was made was regarding the signalization of the traffic lights, being able to coordinate that better. So just so you have an idea, the signalization of the traffic lights in a vacuum is actually a function of the county. It's a function of the county, and they actually control that. And we've actually detached one of our transportation employees to the county to better monitor and to fine-tune the signalization in the city. We've also implemented the first tranche of the SMART plan, the Intelligent Transportation Plan here in Miami Beach. Part of the next phase of that will be real-time changes in the signalization, exactly what you're talking about. In the meantime, what we've had to do is actually station police officers to control what they call the pickle. It's called the pickle. And they literally stand there and manually change the lights to better keep traffic flow, but also you've got to remember that you've got multiple schools, including my kid's school, right there on 41st. You also have on Fridays and Saturdays, you have a lot of people walking to school, so you've got 41st Street is kind of unique. But you are correct that we are still trying to perfect the signalization and keeping traffic flow moving as quickly as possible. And one of the things that myself and Commissioner Malakoff were big proponents of was real strict enforcement of blocking the box. The blocking of the box, the blocking of actual intersections is, if it's enforced aggressively, really, that aggressive enforcement alone has a great positive impact on traffic flow. Because if the intersections are blocked, it doesn't matter if it's green, nobody can get through the intersection. Especially at 41st and Pine Tree, especially at 41st and Collins, Dade Boulevard and Alton, Indian Creek and Abbott, 71st Street and Indian Creek. Those are very specific places where blocking the box, when you see that we've kind of put these crosshatch things in the intersection, those alone have some sort of, they have a psychological effect on people. Granted, they magically appear there overnight. I don't know how they got there. I guess it's better to ask for forgiveness than to ask for permission, but I don't know how they got there. But they're there and they work. So. Well, yeah, with the police, remember, during our Basel in particular, we're spread very thinly. One of the things that myself and actually Commissioner Areola, we fought for increased funding for police. We were actually hiring something like 18 to 20 new officers, and it's the first time in a long time that we've actually increased the size of the police force. It's been years since we've done that. Part of it, and we also redesignated the entertainment district as a fourth area. So traffic enforcement and the way we enforce things going into 2017, those are going to change. Those are going to change. We're going to have more cops on the street. We're going to have more traffic enforcement, especially during day and afternoon shift when it's important. But the commitment to keeping those boxes clear, especially at 4th and Alton, at 5th and Alton, at Meridian and Meridian and 5th, that area, I know it's very important. I don't want to say that we don't have enough cops. There's just, I don't know if that was me or the other microphone. There's the other microphone. It's that one. It's that one. So
Who is in charge of Espanola?
Who's in charge of
Who
Espanola?
oversees it? Right now, they're in the process of redeveloping that area. And I don't know if the city is aware it's a one-way street. And as a resident who lives between Euclid and Pennsylvania, and the rest of and it's a one-way, and the rest of Espanola is closed, it will never open. They're making it into a mall. How am I supposed to get back home again? It is impossible.
Right, well, I know that Espanola Way, the final product, I believe it's going to be pedestrian only. I believe that, at least except for certain circumstances. That's my understanding.
They're closing it off.
Right.
They're going to have tables in the middle. How are you going to be able to drive?
I don't understand the question.
How will I be able to get to my home if they convert part of Espanola Way into a mall? The streets are closed.
And where on Espanola Way are you?
I'm between Euclid and Pennsylvania.
Okay, so you're between, yeah, but I don't think it's going pedestrian the whole way. I think it's just from Washington to, I guess that would be what, Drexel?
No, to Pennsylvania.
From Washington to Pennsylvania,
And
okay.
then from Pennsylvania to Euclid, it's a one-way.
Okay, that I'm unaware of.
It's a one-way going east.
Okay.
That means I have to go ring around to Rosie in order to get home sometime.
Okay. Well, maybe that's something that we need to readdress. Maybe that's something that we need to readdress. I mean, this is really, that's a super micro issue that I was unaware of. So let's sit down and talk about it. I'm more than happy to see if we can come up with a solution. I purposely didn't have a lot of city staff here today, because I didn't want to put them on the spot. But I can sit down with the transportation director and see if there's a better way to do that.
Because there are condos, don't forget, between Pennsylvania
Understood.
and Euclid, and it's ridiculous.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. No, thanks for bringing it up. I appreciate that. Yeah, Lou.
Having come from an experience of Philadelphia, then Manhattan, then Berlin, all the tourist towns, big tourist towns. The one thing they did have that was very interesting was a train to the plane, so that all tourists could get on the train. I've taken them myself, and you get right to the city. It stops at one point, you get off, and then you take a taxi, you took the buses or the subways. So what about something like, okay, just over the bridge, over one of the causeways, and then you get off. It turns around and goes back to the airport.
Well, one of the suggestions, and this goes to actually Xavier Suarez from the county, is the idea of extending, having some rail that connects with the Metro Rail run along 195 and land at a multimodal. You know the area that's where right behind the sign where it says "Welcome to Miami Beach." There's an area there that's controlled by FDOT. That's used for staging, and it's used for debris drop-off during catastrophic events, hurricanes, things like that. So that area, and Commissioner Alamont has actually been one that's raised the idea, and I think Commissioner Malakoff as well, the idea of creating a multimodal facility there where you can have a robust trolley system kind of based out of there, coupled with Uber drop-off and pickup, things like that, and you can have that connectivity from the airport which the Metro Rail runs right along the 112, to continue it on 195, run it right over and land there, and then discontinue the concept of actual physical rail here in Miami Beach, and then do it that way. So that's one of the suggestions that's been thrown around as the first step to see if that works. Do that first. You can run that either cantilever over 195, or you can run it up the middle, where even the construction of it would not disrupt traffic too much. So.
John, I think it's you on the microphone.
Yes.
Since we have so much water around us, what considerations have been made to make water transportation a link between Miami Beach and Miami in a dedicated way. And it also, if we had watercraft, would be an opportunity for artists to have a contest to paint them in some kind of distinctive, happy, whimsical way, and we could make a whole hoo-ha about it. And so, what are your thoughts on water transportation?
Okay, so that's a great point. It's a great point. So, what we've learned, and we're piloting a water taxi from Sunset Harbor. That has been, there already is a water taxi, a private water taxi that runs from the Miami Beach Marina. But to have some sort of robust water taxi system, the initial assessment is that the numbers don't work. There's actually not a lot of demand. The ridership demands are not there. That people won't use it. And that's the cost per rider is so high. Like we've tried it, and we're going to continue to try it. We're piloting it out of Sunset Harbor. But candidly, from what we've seen so far, the numbers just don't work. Whether it's because of heat, whether it's because of rain, whether it's because people, listen, the reality is people like their cars. They like their cars. They like driving around in their cars. They love it. And I mean, granted, they may not like it if we put a rail down and make their lives miserable, but they're more, I'm going to tell you that people are more likely, if we disrupt the city here, they're more likely to move than they are to get rid of their cars. People love their cars down here. And it's very hard to get somebody on a boat. It would be a tourist attraction at best. I'm willing to try anything. But from what we've seen, somebody in a suit that's going to work downtown in lieu of commuting via car, and they're going to get on a boat and sweat and walk in the elements and do it, they're just not going to do it. You know, it's not part of the culture down here yet. It's just not. It ferries in certain areas work, but to change a century's worth of car driving and the ways that the region has been set up, it just doesn't have the ridership numbers to make it work. There are vendors out there. We do work with a couple of them. We work with one in particular from Sunset Harbor to do things on the weekend, but it's more of a novelty than it is something that's going to have any sort of meaningful mitigation to the traffic, to traffic. Yes, ma'am.
I was here when we had water taxis before. The only person who wrote it was me. Never advertised.
We have found the one person that admits to running water taxi.
No one knew they were here, but I did. You put up signs and told people that we had water taxis, they would go out and drive them all the way down to BKFST. Up and down, up and down.
Yeah. So she was there was a water taxi at some time that my fine friend here, she said she was the only one that was ever on it. So they
Tell people they hurt you. If you don't tell people, they don't.
I'm with you. What do you got, Bev?
That a water taxi is a very good idea. I used to live, or my daughter used to live on Roosevelt Island in Manhattan. And we're talking about an island that has cold weather and warm weather, and they had a water taxi that went from Roosevelt Island to 59th Street in Manhattan. Why did people ride it? Because it was not expensive. Not $20, which is what I understand the water taxi is. One way, $20. Not going to do it. So one is the expense. Two is it has to come on time. I understand that it didn't come on time. Three is that it has to be known about. I live on Miami Beach and I had no clue that we even had this available. I think it's a great thing for tourists, and I think if I lived in Miami or worked back and forth and I had this kind of transportation and it was inexpensive and timely, it would be successful. So I think it's something that it should really be looked at. I think it's a wonderful idea. Not instead of, but in addition to all the other ideas. And then I had a different question. Would you tell me which commissioners need to be spoken to? Which one is supporting the candidate? No.
that. No.
Okay.
Listen, every commissioner has their own approach to things. We agree on some things, we disagree on some things. I pride myself, and I know most of my colleagues, most of the time, we do what we call calling balls and strikes. I commit to everybody that I always call balls and strikes. As long as people are calling balls and strikes, even if I disagree with them, that's fine. So I encourage all of you to reach out to folks, take their temperature, see how they feel about things. I am not putting anybody on the spot. I don't think that's appropriate. In perpetuity, I don't think that's appropriate.
Who is the target audience for this transportation between Miami and Miami Beach? At one point you said the tourists, and then the next time you just mentioned suits and ties. Who is the target? Where would the marketing be aimed? Who would you expect to use this?
Well, yeah, that's a good point. So the question was about the Bay Link itself. If there was a Bay Link, who would be the target audience? Who would be tourists will definitely be part of it. You know, the city of Miami, we have all the hotels. So city of Miami would love a Bay Link, because then the folks staying over here could more easily go over there. They love it, and all of the tens of thousands of hotel rooms that are filled with all of our tourists, instead of them staying on Miami Beach, spending their money and enjoying themselves, all of a sudden they go over there. What happens if a casino pops up on the old Miami Herald site, which I'm against, and adamantly against. But what happens if there's a casino over there, or now the Grieco City Center's over there now? They would love for people that are staying, tourists that are staying in Miami Beach, to have just an easier way of getting over there, obviously. But the world has changed. It'd be nice. Listen, it would be nice. I live over on 1st Street. It'd be nice to be able to, when the traffic's bad, to take a train to a Heat game, or take a train to the Arts Center, or to a science museum. But for that 1 or 2 times a year, those unicorn situations where I need or want to take it, is it worth $500 million? Just for the city's piece. The whole Bay Link process, and you're talking it's got to be well over $1 billion. Well over $1 billion. And that's not even counting if there's federal funding. That would strictly be state, county, and local. You know, the federal funding process is painstakingly long, so I don't even know where the money's going to come from. But the answer, yes. So I don't know. I don't know.
The studies that you've been doing.
I'm not doing any studies. The county's doing those studies. The city study.
What numbers say? Are they targeting tourists? Are they targeting residents? How many riders do they get? And would they be mostly tourists? Would they be mostly residents? We need that information to understand who the target audience is.
Okay, I can tell you that for purposes of the city's piece, because you're asking about the county piece, we can have Alice Bravo. Well, I want to make sure that we're clear on 2 things. There is the comprehensive county smart plan with a corridor connector that connects the city of Miami to the city of Miami Beach. That is, even though there's some intertwined issues regarding funding, that is an independent project from what is being proposed here, this light rail system on the beach, which is, we're halfway through the race, and the rest of them are still stretching in the locker room. And the system here, the target is it's residents and tourists. But the reality is, I haven't met many residents that would be using this form of transportation in lieu of walking, taking a bike, riding their car, taking an Uber, taking the trolley or a bus. I haven't found many people to do it. So I think that you can make ridership numbers say anything that you want. It's just numbers. It's just data that you hire an expert to say. It's kind of like if somebody's going to build some monster project, they hire somebody to do a traffic study, and somehow that traffic study says that their supermarket is going to decrease traffic. And so you can get anybody to say anything. I don't believe the ridership numbers. I've seen the ridership numbers in other cities that have similar types of plans, and I don't think it's going to work for us. I'm no transportation expert, even though I play one on TV, but I just don't see it working as somebody I have, in my opinion, pretty good understanding of traffic flow in this city and how to come up with ways to mitigate it. And if somebody said they're going to do this, I think it's going to worsen it. Just the traffic flow alone, I don't think you're going to convince people to not buy cars or sell their cars just because you put some sort of rail system in the city. And you're going to give people in the mainland another reason not to come here. Okay? There's nothing wrong with people coming here. If there's a connector, we'll have that conversation later. Right now, I'm worried about slamming the brakes on what we're doing right now to ensure that the public trust that our quality of life both are maintained, that our tax dollars are protected, and that traffic is not worsened by putting a shovel in the ground. Yes, ma'am?
Well, I'd like to say that surely the worst thing that could happen is the restraint. And I think it's the better, surely.
I think the worst thing that can happen is for this train to go in this city. I think if you want something, they should have you're going to lose a road. So have one little leg for the trolley and have the trolley get more trolleys and then that will move instead of being stuck in the traffic with everything else. If anybody wants to move, they can move. But the train is useless unless they do build something over the bridge, over the causeway.
Thank you. Good point.
I've followed a lot of people that have come here to the Breakfast Club over the years. We thought about having a connector over the causeway. It's great. Now, the administration here wants a circulator to sort of ensure that, this is my opinion now, that it's profitable, or they're able to go ahead and justify a rail link over the expressway. Now, which comes before, the chicken or the egg? You rightly said that it would be great to have a connector over here, and then we build our project, or whatever it is. Having trolleys, having buses. So, we want to get those people in the county to build this thing over here so that we can relieve our traffic. If you've ever gone over MacArthur, and I'm sure you have since your office is over there, when you're coming and all of a sudden you're bumper to bumper right over after the first bridge over the MacArthur, you begin to wonder. And this is the problem that needs to be solved. Now, which is it going to be? How are you going to convince them to build their system here to relieve that? Or do you have some sort of bait like what this administration here has, that they're going to build a circulator here to make it almost inevitable that they build this across? What do you think?
I do not think that we put a shovel in the ground in our city that the county commission and the NPO and the city of Miami are going to wake up and go, oh, we now have to do this thing because they did this. I mean, we did our job, which was, we pretty much called out the entire county and said, look what we can do, look what we can come up with a funding package for. And they're still moving at a snail's pace.
Yes.
In the way they prioritize things, in the way they fund things. We're way ahead of where we need to be. Listen, I think that the idea of putting a shovel in the ground is a terrible idea. Okay? I am open to the idea of a connector, and I think that there's ways once it gets here to distribute people around the city. But are we trying to get cars off the road, or are we trying to encourage more people to come here? I mean, that's what I'm trying to figure out. Are we trying to encourage people here to leave and go over there? Like, I still haven't been able to wrap my head, and this goes back to the question that was just asked a little while ago, is we have to be able to articulate why we're doing this. And just because you have traffic and you build transit, transit's not going to eliminate traffic. I used to live on Long Island. You know what Long Island has? We have a railroad. You know what else they have? Crippling traffic during rush hour. You know what Manhattan has? They have a subway, and they have crippling traffic to and from and within the city. It provides options. It provides options, but there will always be traffic in metropolitan areas. And when people start trying to sell you on this idea, I mean, look at Washington. Everybody try to look at Washington Avenue. It's 9:30. We're in December. It's the beginning of peak season, and all these people can drive around fine. You know, you have a train going by right now, and it would look like it was out of service because there'd be nobody on it. And that's where I was thinking to myself, if it was cheap, if it was cheap to build, and it was not going to be a crippling infrastructure project, I may be open to the idea of creating another option. But the problem is you've got to weigh the risk, you've got to weigh the cost with the reward. And we've got a lot of smart people in the room nodding their heads when I say I'm against it, and shaking their heads when I say anything positive about it. All right, a lot of smart people. Yes, sir, go ahead.
One, for everyone here I live in New York City part of the time, and remember in New York City, people don't have cars. So that's one thing we gotta remember. We don't have the option to get into our car. And as far as getting to the airport, I don't know anybody in Manhattan that spends 45 minutes taking to the airport. It's not that easy to get to the airport in public transportation in Manhattan. My question for you is, these ideas, whether it's a convention center, 28 stories, or the light rail, who is coming up with these ideas that none of the residents want?
Okay, so the idea, well, the convention said he was asking about these kind of headline-grabbing projects and where do they come from? The rail project was a product of elected officials going over to Europe, being approached. We received an unsolicited proposal from the company that was eventually selected. They were not the only company that submitted during anybody that says that it was a no-bid process, that's not true. There was an unsolicited proposal. It's one of many ways to do procurement, and there were actually 3 companies that submitted their technologies for evaluation. The selection of this type of technology, out of the 3, it was the proper selection in my opinion, but price has not been negotiated yet, and that's something that will happen in the future. But this was a product of elected officials being approached by the company. It was an unsolicited proposal that came. As for the convention center hotel, the concept of a hotel that was to be connected with the convention center, that's been a topic of conversation for forever. I mean, as long as they've been talking about transit, they've been talking about it. Even back when I ran for office in 2013, that big 51-acre, those 2 51-acre mega proposals on that RFQ, both of those incorporated a convention center hotel. So it's not a new concept that's been proposed. It's been talked about for as long as I've been. So it's not new.
My question is, are you planning to run for a higher office?
You see what you're doing? No.
Going to this estate because you need a
No, we're not talking about politics.
I hope you do.
I love you, Alex, but we'll talk about that part. Okay, we're going to do one more question, and then if anybody wants to talk to me privately, I'm more than happy to.
When you talk about all the traffic here, and people coming in with the traffic, you forgot, I live on Sunny Isles Beach. Last week, it took me 1 hour to drive. This morning, it took me 40 minutes. That's 3 miles, 40 minutes to get here. Now, these people all go home in the evening, too. Bertie, what are you going to do about that?
So this is going to be the last question. It's a great question because it goes to a point I made earlier. She lives in Sunny Isles, and she said it took her 40 minutes to get here this morning. So there's a certain number of miles. You do the math as to what her average speed was. Now, you got to remember, you're coming from outside the city and coming to South Beach. If you are stuck on Indian Creek, because there's only really one way to come. So say you're at Indian Creek and 67. And say there's cars behind you and to the side of you. Almost all of them, except for maybe one, they don't live on the beach, and they're not headed to the beach. They're coming from, some of them are coming from Broward, and they don't want to take I-95, they don't want to take Biscayne Boulevard, and they've timed it out, and based upon whatever Waze told them this morning, that's the way they chose to go. And there's only one way. That one area, there's only one way. That's like all the blood in your body going through your aorta all at once. That's what it is. I make a lot of physician analogies because I think it works. And that cripples us. Those aren't all beach residents or beach employees and people that are coming and going to the beach. We are a logical place for people that live in Surfside, Bal Harbour, Sunny Isles, Bay Harbor Islands, even Hallandale and Hollywood and Aventura to come down and use our way as an alternative to other ways. And then those are state roads. Those are state roads, and they come through our city. They're trying to get to 195, and we need to mitigate that traffic flow. We need to provide options for people that do live here that are trying to get around the city. I'm focused on the residents first. I want people that live in Miami Beach to be able to get where they want to go within Miami Beach. It's a serious priority. It's a quality of life issue. People need to get to the supermarket. People need to take their kids to school. People need to get to work. People need to do whatever they need to do to get around during the day. So what you're talking about is a perfect example of a product of our geography and a product of who we are as a city. And it's exactly the point. These are people that don't live here that are cutting through. And it's a challenge. It's an absolute challenge. But a rail around South Beach wouldn't solve that problem. It wouldn't solve that problem. The timing of the traffic lights and making sure those intersections are clear and just keeping the traffic flowing, that's the solution. Listen, I'm gonna stop here. We've been doing this about an hour and 15 minutes. I'm gonna stick around for a while, but I want to thank you all for coming. I want to thank you for listening. I want to thank you for your questions. I want to thank you, for being my neighbor. My understanding is that this entire conversation is being recorded and it's going to be put on city debate.